Hey, Patrick.
Hey, America.
Yes, America in emergency, though, because it's upside down. That's how you can tell things are not going well in Spec Ops The Line.
America is on decline in Spec Ops The Line.
Well, if you're just going to rhyme like that, we should probably just stop now. Break out a rhyme cipher over in the kitchen or something. Yes, this man and his sniper rifle clearly in trouble, as we can see here. This is from 2K and Jaeger. It is a cover-based third-person shooter.
Been developing for a very long time.
Yeah, kind of disappeared, came back, kind of wondering for a while there if it was even going to come out at all.
The last time I'd seen it before we saw it at PAX East was probably when Greg Kasavin was still working on it and was giving those E3 demos when like the initial premise of this game or like the pitch was moral choices.
Yeah, so I am. I guess I was gonna say happy, but it's interesting to report that yes, that is still the main hook in the game is the story stuff, and we're kind of in a bind here for this for this recording because those are kind of pivotal moments. So, kind of don't want to show them. There are maybe 5 or 6 of them, and they don't start happening until maybe like halfway through the game or so.
Are they like does that like start entering into spoiler territory? Like, hey, these are pivotal story moments where you're making a decision.
Yeah, they're kind of the one thing this game has going for it is this story stuff, and it reveals a lot about the nature of this world. So in this game, you play as some Delta Force guys, or a Delta Force guy with 2 squad mates with you.
Adams, Lugo, sound off. Down here.
So you play as Nolan North, and you got Kid from Kid and Play and some other guy with you.
Back on your feet then. I want to know where we
It mostly sounds like what would happen if Nathan Drake swore a lot.
Yeah, kinda. That is sort of where it goes. So you're dropped into Dubai. It's a sandstorm. Huge sandstorms hit Dubai. The U.S. military is sent in to kind of clean it up, and then they kind of go off the grid, disobeying orders and staying behind, presumably to help with the evacuation and such. So your 3 guys here are sent in to kind of figure out what the hell's going on, and at the core of it, you kind of walk into the middle of this war between rebels and U.S. forces, and the game is very much playing around with like who are the good guys. It is not clear. I can tell you from the length of time I have played.
So you don't even know yet.
Yeah, that I think it is going to be a very gray game.
So I mean, this game is I know I came out of PAX East with a fairly negative impression.
Yeah, as did I. Kind of just playing it and I played this game for several hours with a pretty negative impression of it as well. When we talked about it on the podcast yesterday, I had not seen as much as I've seen now. And from the gameplay perspective, it shows you all its tricks relatively early on. But those story sequences kind of get a little more interesting as time goes on, and more meaningful too. So you do some kind of messed up stuff, and you're not really sure what's right and what's wrong.
Well, and especially I think the reason the impression out of PAX East was largely negative was because when you were just showing sort of a slice of this game that is the combat, there's not a lot about the combat itself that is very special.
Exactly. And I think the game itself, like visually, looks kind of bad.
I wonder how much of that is, attributable to this game's really protracted, elongated development cycle. It's hard to tell, but
yeah, I don't know. But you end up in some. So before the scene started, I fell through this skylight kind of into this area. Because it's Dubai, so it's all these fancy buildings, but everything's been covered in sand, so you're not really sure what's what a lot of the time.
They give up? I don't think so. Listen, something's going on up there.
Run around and hopefully get some.
You killed a lot of dudes.
Yeah, I just shot a lot of guys. It's kind of. Oh, that's.
Adams, door now!
Shit, Walker, this room's gonna blow! Okay, go!
Ah!
Let's keep moving. We need to find an exit.
So there was a little bit of sand shown when those guys came through. I know that probably in addition to the moral stuff, when they were showing this game years ago, like the sand, the way sand was going to interact was like going to be this very dynamic element that was optional to the player and was going to really influence, like, in addition to just shooting, that like there were always supposed to be creative ways to take them out.
It's not really a huge part of the game. There are definitely some parts here and there where it's like, oh, I could shoot this. And there'll be a spot up here where we can, you know, optionally, or where we can shoot out some stuff and see a little bit of sand. But yeah, it's usually like kind of fixed situations of just like, you need to shoot the sand, and then you shoot the sand.
So it's not like something where like you could have finished a fight by just shooting dudes, but you took it out really quickly because you discovered...
There are one or two cases like that, but that doesn't feel like there are a lot of those.
That's too bad.
So here you kind of see this is sort of the first plot twist, which may get you interested in kind of seeing where this goes. Is, you know, this is, you know, the local insurgents, but that guy is clearly an American.
Good. Think I'll go say hi.
Agent Castellan, wait.
What?
He won't talk, sir.
He'll talk to me. Walker, that guy was American.
Yeah, I noticed.
That means he's seen me in House Party and House Party 2. I'll handle this.
Why's he got a hard on for the 33rd?
I have no idea. Shit. Ask him yourself.
I don't know, this voice is weirding me out.
Yeah, it is Nolan North, very much. And then Nico Bellic there, shotgun.
Reloading! Keep an eye out! Heading up on the roof! Take out
So you, if I remember from the PAX East demo, like you have a little bit of control over like what your squad mates are doing, right?
Yeah, so I can use the right bumper, and basically I can bring this cursor over an enemy and mark them, and then they will focus fire on that guy. That's mostly it. There are a few cases where, you know, in certain situations you can order them to heal. Like if one guy goes down, you can order the other guy to heal him. You see he's got that little slow motion thing there. So yeah, here's a case of optional sand. Right there.
If your guys go down and you don't take care of them, is that it?
There's a meter
over?
appears, and yeah, eventually, if they die, it's bad.
Heads up! Tango, trying to move!
So the sandstorm is still going on.
The sandstorm comes and goes. You know, it's sort of, you know, kind of a story hook of like, oh, we got to get inside because the sand is picking up. You know, ammo kind of always a concern. You know, you can't really hold a ton of it. Not that it's a, you know, survival horror level of ammo management or anything like that. It just means that you're kind of having to occasionally scrounge around for ammo for your current weapon, or just be willing to change to something else. Right.
Everybody outside. I can't shout orders over that storm, so watch yourself. Enemy down!
The enemies are you know, there are armored enemies that take more bullets than the average guy, but for the most part, like, it's, you know, feathering the trigger to maintain accuracy on any one of these assault rifles really takes just most guys down.
They don't seem to really use cover.
No, they do here and there, but yeah, they're not the most intelligent enemies in video gaming history. And that kind of slow motion thing seems to happen a lot. It's usually like headshots or something that'll trigger it, or just kind of goes slow for a split second. It's a bit much.
Yeah, it seems a little odd to be doing that when you're just kind of absent-mindedly firing and just accidentally get a headshot.
Yeah, you're like,
as
oh, I
opposed to...
guess I got a headshot. I'm like, great, I'm kind of racking them up. Oh, those are my guys. Oh, see, so there a guy went down, so I can just tap the right bumper to get the other guy to bring him back up, or I can walk over there and do it myself. Drugs.
Because you know,
yeah,
that's how health works in the future.
Totally. Now we are back inside.
Do you spend a lot of time outside, or is it largely going building to
It goes
building?
back and forth. You know, there are only 1 or 2, from what I've played so far, like the chapter 11 or whatever it is, a couple of sandstorms, so it actually gets pretty clear when you're outside. It's not always like that.
Keep moving. Check.
All right.
Let's be careful, gentlemen. We're not alone.
So a lot of it deals with, you know, kind of what has happened in the 6 months since these storms started and since no one's really heard anything out of Dubai. And that's where the game kind of just becomes Heart of Darkness, and kind of, you know, which is what Apocalypse Now is based on.
Right. They definitely seem to be like, they've made that explicitly obvious, like in the marketing and the way they've been, like, once this game kind of turned to whatever corner where it's like, okay, we're actually releasing this, that has seemed to have been like the focus of all the sort of the messaging in the game is really playing up that angle.
Yeah. But as far as I can tell, it's not an official connection.
It's not canonical.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, you're going after a guy named Conrad with a K. The guy that wrote Heart of Darkness is Conrad with a C.
Right.
But, you know, so it's kind of like he's the Kurtz figure in the story.
Does any of that work?
Come on, follow me.
It definitely, I mean, you know, it's part of what makes the story interesting.
That's a lot of candles.
Yeah. There's a lot of candles. This is also what makes the story interesting. Lots of candles. But there's kind of a disconnect in some, so like I can't shoot here. And there's no reticle on screen and no HUD. So you kind of, you know when you're able to take a breather. And I think that sucks a lot of the tension out of it. Yeah.
I'm in the wrong line of work.
Lugo, quiet.
Sorry.
So like you'll like kind of deliberately know when the shit's about to
when
hit
this
the
is a
fan.
story sequence, and then when it breaks out into something else, all of a sudden I can run, and you know.
These soldiers were massacred.
Nah. Look how they're lined up. This was an execution.
Just like the Kabul death squads.
Shit.
Yeah. Shit.
Shit.
Aw. Shit.
So this game early on, you know, you end up with stuff like this that kind of ends up just feeling like,
Shit's crazy, man.
yeah, like
Stuff went really wrong.
it suffers from
Gonna keep at this until
like
you
home front
tell me
syndrome
what
of, oh man, look at this, it's so nuts.
Hold X to hide in this body of corpses.
No, nothing quite like that. But I mean, you definitely do walk through
Right.
a lot of areas like that where there are a bunch of dead bodies.
right now. Damn can't save you. The 33rd lost their
Well, it just seems like some of the stuff in this game can be a little on the nose.
Yeah.
Just reading, I think it was the New York Times review of this game, where at some point you'll be walking through, and like a bunch of bodies are hanging, and you get achievement notification, the Horde. And it's just like, you seem to be kind of undermining yourself there.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Hold your fire.
Lower your weapon.
I look stupid to you?
No. That's why you're gonna point that pistol somewhere else.
Lower your weapon. I'll lower mine.
Not gonna happen.
You got a name?
McPherson. First Lieutenant.
I want to see what happens if I just do that.
You shot him.
Yeah, I did.
So that was a moment.
Adams, check the body.
Technically, I guess?
You don't. Most of the moments have achievements attached to them, so this doesn't seem like a moment that's necessarily
Huge implications.
huge implications for gameplay.
Oh, that's just
But
what
I'm assuming you let him live. When you played
Yes,
this
yeah.
first time?
He repels down here and runs away.
couldn't take the chance.
So you don't really find out anything from him, and then later on you end up fighting a bunch of guys, which we'll head down here, and I imagine we will still end up fighting a bunch of guys. Nice that they reacted to that. Nice that they recorded dialogue.
I guess it's cool, like, yeah, like that's, I think, a situation where almost nobody would do that. But at least the game, like most games don't even build in the ability for you to...
Right.
U.S. soldiers.
And I guess that, that is a situation where when the game is communicating to you when the story beats are and when are the interactive portions,
Yeah.
Gotta live with it.
that, you can notice then, like, well, the reticle's here. I should be able to
Right.
fucking shoot this guy. And, that's a little bit better than just game over. You interrupted our
Right.
scripted sequence.
And it's one of the nice things about their kind of like story moments or whatever. All right, so the different thing that happened there is that in that room I was just in, there would be an encounter in there with about 5 or 6 guys, because that guy would have run on ahead and alerted people.
Right.
So those people were not there because I just smoked that dude. But smoking that dude, maybe not maybe not what you would do. But if you were this guy in this situation.
At least your your squad mates, very clear. Like, hey, dude, that was kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
Why'd you do that?
And that's kind of the tone of the game, is definitely like when you find those story moments, it doesn't come out and say like, do you want to do this or do you want to do this? It's not that explicit, which is nice. And then they will, your squad mates will kind of react. They will recommend a course of action, and often they are opposed. That's sort of how they telegraph that stuff. Is like, man, I don't think we should do this.
So like,
the guy's well, we don't have a choice, you know.
They're like opposed to you making a decision entirely, or they're kind of leaning in one direction.
Yeah, one will be leaning in one direction, one will be leaning in the other. But in some cases, inaction is one of the choices.
So if you just sit
there,
there,
so
like
if you
paralyzed,
just sit there, it will happen for you. So it's pretty good about checkpointing immediately once that decision has been made to prevent you from going like, oh Jesus, what did I do? And then going back and restarting the checkpoint. To just pick right up from there.
Is there any impression that, like, how does that stuff carry? Because you had a chapter selection screen, so theoretically you could just go back, replay a chapter, see it happen differently.
My guess is that the choices you make actually don't matter that much.
Okay.
That's if I had to guess about.
I don't know how. Yeah. How else would they otherwise track that?
Yeah.
Well, that's too bad.
So why don't we jump into something a little later? That's a whole firefight kind of going down the stairs of this mall-like area. We'll jump in something further ahead, we'll go in late and hopefully we'll dodge enough story, but just to get a sense of the tonal shift of your squad.
Yeah, you were indicating that there is definitely kind of a moment where the game moves in tone.
Yeah. Okay. This is
kind of a cool map.
Yeah.
Gives you like kind of a decent impression of where you're at in the progression of the game.
Yeah. So this is right after the kind of fucked thing that you seems like you have to partake in. It didn't. I tried finding an alternate solution. It didn't seem like that there was one. That's actually. I'm actually not going to show that. Well, we could probably just start where I got up to, actually. And I'll have to reunite with the guys, but.
Oh no! You get separated from your squad?
I know.
That happens in this game?
A couple of times.
Yeah, I think that is definitely not spoiler territory. That was very creepy. Go through the different...
Yeah, you shoot the heads off a bunch of mannequins and your squad's like, what the fuck? No. That's the choice.
One of the moral choices. Oh, the mannequins was creepy and condemned.
4 days. This city will begin dying of thirst. Just like Riggs wanted. This is your fault, Walker. You did this, not me.
So there are kind of a lot of cases of, and this actually will be one of the story sequences, but removed from context. So, Dubai can have a lot of different looks.
Yeah.
It's not just sand and then the insides of buildings and stuff. You know what? I don't think there's a good way to actually show this stuff off.
Too risky?
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, you know, the soldiers kind of get unraveled to the point where a lot of the things they do that they do as soldiers earlier in the game, and you know, that kind of professional military tone becomes, you know, unraveled, a little more curse-filled, a lot more yelling.
Well, maybe it's Dark
like
Darkness,
reloading a gun. It goes.
It's going to be a descent into madness.
Exactly. So it kind of goes from just like I'm out or I'm reloading to I'm fucking out. I'm fucking, you know, like you know, there are execution moves, you know, on downed enemies that, you know, are very clinical and cold.
People are starting to lose it.
Yeah, but then later on in the game, it's you bashing the butt of your gun into the guy's skull 5 or 6 times, making sure he is dead.
Christ.
That sort of thing. So there's a multiplayer section to the game as well. You know, I don't think this is very good. I think that the shooting in the campaign and stuff is very generic and standard. But you know, it functions as advertised. My experience with the multiplayer has been, you know, not
it's
so hot.
multiplayer.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely seemed like the multiplayer was responsible for at least one of the game's delays when they did
that beta.
They did a beta, and then the game just sort of disappeared for months after that.
Yeah.
Just like your standard mode, standard Call of Duty
Yeah,
style
you know,
progression.
it defaults to deathmatch, which is sort of a weird, like if you just keep hitting A at the multiplayer menu, you will end up in regular deathmatch, not team deathmatch, which is a little strange. So they got 2 factions. There are kind of slight differences in percentage bonuses between the factions and the classes and that sort of stuff. And the kind of the mechanic that they add to this that kind of makes it a little different from the typical shooter of this type is that sandstorms kick up.
Oh. Do you get like some sort of countdown on that? Like hey,
it is sort of a hey, sandstorm's coming.
Okay.
And then it happens. Your map goes out, and you know, no one can really see too well.
Oh, so you don't have to like hide. You're not going to die if you're caught in the sandstorm.
It's just you just can't see real far.
Right. Nothing interesting to the progression. Just sort of your standard.
No, you unlock perks. You unlock weapons. You unlock skins for your guys. You know, maybe this game gets a bit of a pass on this because they do have slight differences between the factions, as I believe. But I don't like it when you have to configure your guys twice, once per faction. I think that's crazy. So you have kind of 2 separate kits,
right,
and loadouts and stuff. You know, it's a little.
Do you have to respec that every time, or do you?
Like you have to just, you know, well, yeah. If I unlock stuff, then I have to go into both sets and you know, make modifications there, and that's a little. I think that's asking a bit much of the players of this game, because I just don't. I don't think that this game is worth that much effort on the players, on the players' part of like, oh, I need to go in and really configure the hell out of these loadouts. Like, no, not really. It's just not. It's not good enough to warrant that. Level of commitment.
It's it's been. I'm curious to see if we'll continue to see this trend of putting multiplayer into games to try and extend the the life cycle of the product when you have games like this where it's just like what was the point?
Like is there actual benefit
for anyone? Like for the dev team, for the consumer, and it's most apparent in games where it's like it's not even that this is bad, it's just why.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think every multiplayer game needs to be world-class, best in breed, knocking out everything else. But when you're kind of making a game that covers some well-worn territory,
right?
Like a multiplayer shooter, cover-based or otherwise,
this looks way worse.
Yeah,
than the regular game.
Yeah. And at least it's running well. Last time I played it, maybe I got connected with some overseas players or something, but it also ran like complete garbage on top of that. Which is no good.
But yeah, I think you're right. I think a lot of us were, I think rightfully so, cynical about Mass Effect adding multiplayer, but that was a situation where, at least the fundamental gameplay with the powers, it changes the dynamic enough that even though the shooting isn't terrific or up to the same standards as a Gears of War, that just how you play is tonally different enough, mechanically different enough that it's interesting.
Totally, absolutely.
And it was cool to not be cynically right about that. Like, I was happy to be pleasantly surprised, even if it's not really my thing. But clearly, it has found an audience.
It's totally playable. It's reasonably engaging. Like their take on horde mode is interesting.
And I think that's a situation where that philosophy of adding a multiplayer mode to extend the length worked out totally. Like that, it's a single player RPG that once you are done with it, especially given some of the response to the way the single player worked out.
Damn it.
That worked in their favor quite a bit.
Need help.
Bleed out.
Need help.
Is that all you say?
That's all he says, apparently.
Thanks, Slayer Jake.
All right.
It's real quiet.
Yeah. It's because no one's playing.
Match also goes on for 30 minutes.
I think you hit a kill. Hopefully you hit a kill count before that.
Some nice spawning in textures.
It is the
Real
Unreal
bad.
Engine.
Yeah, but this is, that was, I know that's still kind of an issue, but not nearly to that degree.
Some developers are certainly.
Speaking of Mass Effect, that looks like some Mass Effect 1 style texture popping.
Oh, hey, okay, that's my guy. Oh.
Is that a grenade? Oh.
No, it's fine.
Any of the perks interesting? Like, do they add any sort of dynamic that is
there's armor and stuff. So, okay, well, here's a sandstorm coming in. There's armor, so you can kind of, as you level up, you unlock additional armor that gives you more protection at the cost of some of your mobility. If you want to go that route, the percentage bonus for the armor is greater than the percentage drop in your mobility, so it seems like a good trade-off.
Sure.
But, probably depends on how you play a little bit. Oh, yeah, that's what I get for just kind of sitting on that gun, I guess. But I just wanted to see the sand. I think that the multiplayer looks significantly worse than the single player. Just the designs, the art, the texture work and stuff like that just looks cruddy. We're all hanging out over here. We're a team. Hey, you guys. We're on a team. Hey, we're on a team, you guys. Hey.
Well, you were.
You should have protected me because we were on a team. That was the understanding. Is that we were bros. We were team buds. Oh, this is gonna go bad.
Stuff. Oh. I wonder how that looked on his end.
Yeah.
Who are the people that are playing this? I just don't understand the audience.
Like this game's out today. Like who ran out and said dude, we gotta get in the line.
Or even if they did, jump in to play multiplayer. I don't know. There must be some sort of study that makes all this make sense. I don't know.
Well, that was a guy up there. So you have your player card there with your title and stuff. That's the default title that guy had. And that's what I was talking about on the podcast, which is not posted yet, so people will look forward to hearing about that. But just the fonts of that stuff just look real. I'll just bleed out.
Early PS2, early multiplayer
huge text. It's just why is this here? What's going on? It just looks kind of rough. Like the text over the guys' heads and stuff. That looks fine.
Stamp of approval.
Yeah. Text talk. How's the kerning on this stuff? That was a weird bounce that grenade took off that antenna. But, you know, I died anyway. Still, pretty sweet bounce. Anyway, why don't we quit out? We can get into some of the menus a little bit here and see what the other modes are and show kind of some of the customization stuff. But
sure.
But that's pretty much it. It's
right. It's too bad.
It's a weird. It's kind of hard to show this game because the things that are cool about it are cool because the story is good and.
Or at least goes in some I'm curious to see how the payoff goes.
Yes, me too. I actually don't know how it's going to pay off. So I have not finished the game just yet. I'm getting pretty close here.
It seems to be a lot of the talk about the game coming out today. Like a lot of reviews are pretty in line with a lot of this feeling. It's like try some interesting things, and I'm just curious to see when you play it how whether that stuff pays off or if it is one of those games that is just flawed. But
I feel like already, unless the payoff goes above and beyond in some really crazy ways, like I don't. This is not a game I can really feel too good about recommending.
Right.
Because it is,
especially in the idea of you paying $60 for it.
Yeah, exactly. So you see here, 10% XP bonus for sandstorm kills if you're on the damned, and if you're on the exiles, 15% bonus for melee kills. So that's kind of some of the faction differences. But then from there, you've got kind of your standard basic classes, and those come with some percentage bonuses as well. Better melee damage. Start with extra magazines, reduce damage and cover. Ghost shows up on the kill roster as the killer, and no revenge bonus is granted to any enemy that kills you. Appear in the incorrect position on the enemy's minimap. So it's kind of standard, perky sort of stuff. And when you get to the maximum rank or up there, high rank, you can get a third perk. Weapons. They got some guns.
It's just if you're already playing you're invested in a game like Call of Duty, why would you want to?
Obviously, yeah. If you're already into a game like that is kind of just better production value. It's hard to beat.
Right.
They support it. They put out a bunch of stuff.
There's a community.
But if you're not into that sort of thing, I also think you're not likely to suddenly get hooked on something like this.
Right, they're literally treating it like we were talking about on the podcast, that it's almost like middleware at this point. It's like this framework that Infinity Ward came up with has just been wholesale dumped into all these different games, and however they want to spin their own unique twists on it, it is certainly not enough that if you looked at it, you'd be like, oh, this is a fundamental change in multiplayer design, and just this idea that if you put in that framework, you're going to hook a lot of those same people, I think, is a falsehood, or at least has not been proven.
Yeah, so I'm kind of not sure who that part's for, other than, whoever at
That's
the
what you
publisher
put in the game.
Just said, well, we got to keep people from selling it used, and multiplayer shooters are hot right now, or whatever the reasons are. I don't feel like they found a creative way to include multiplayer in their game.
Is there a season? I haven't heard anything about a season pass for this game or anything. It seems like that. That's if you're going to do it, that seems to be the way to couple people. Is
I guess, yeah. But I can't imagine why
people investing in a season pass for this.
Want to do that. So we'll leave it here with our sniper friend and his binoculars. Thanks for hanging out, Patrick.
Yeah, curious to see how this pans out.
Me too.